Welcome back, everybody. Big Time Adulting podcast here. Very special guest today. One of my most favorite online people, Nicki Marie.
I was going to say, if I had a podcast and you were my guest, I was going to say you're my favorite. And then I was just thinking, like, is anyone crying in their pillow that night? Because I left, like, I just
You
said
can't.
it. I said it.
You have to be. We have to be careful of others' feelings.
I just
When
loved
we
it.
discuss
And
our.
now that I met you in person, it's like, okay, yes, I was
Yeah.
right. I love her.
It was like we were online dating for like a year, and then just like finally had our first date in person, and it went great.
It did go
It
great.
was a home run. We made sweet, sweet love to each other. Um,
The pretty bike helmets and all. I love it.
bike helmets and all. In case you didn't see, Nicki and I rode 8 miles total back and forth to a bar together to get a delicious Greyhound.
Very responsible. One drink
One
and then
drink.
back to dinner on time.
No drinking and biking. Although I have drunk and biked before and not kept it to one drink, and I once fell off of a bike. Full disclosure.
Kept it classy.
So Nikki and I met in real life at the Mother Collective Retreat this past weekend, and it was really awesome. Nikki, it was your first time going to this thing. What did you
Yes.
think about it, like in general?
I thought it was great. I think you always go into those things. Everyone thinks, you and I shared this story. You and I have this personality that most people would think we just walk into a room and it's like we're so comfortable and we're extroverted all the time. But you and I said the same thing. Walking into a new group of women, you still get those little like first day at school jitters.
Yeah.
So we had that. And then once I got to sit down with the group, I was like, wow, it's amazing that I was thinking these women like wanted to get away from something, like wanted to escape something. But it was more just like people looking to be themselves in a version that was like pre-kids almost. Like
Yeah.
they weren't there to talk about their stresses and talk about their kids or talk about their husbands. It was just like summer camp, but for adults, for
Yeah,
moms.
it was like a deeply like introspective thing for people too, just to like, yeah, revisit who they are outside of being a mother in so many ways, but also the ways that like motherhood has changed you and shaped you now, and like all the events leading up to that in life, right? Like we talked a lot about childhood and all that shit.
Yeah.
And we talked about how like basically at the beginning of this sort of thing, we were both kind of like, is this weird? Like to go to this like retreat with fucking strangers and like be like kumbaya, sit in a circle, hold hands. Like, what are we doing? Like, are we all going to brush each other's hair? Um, but it was so awesome.
Yeah.
It was just like, it's actually just like a very unique, great connective experience.
Yeah. It
And a
was
really
like sitting down, having good food, having good conversation, having good wine, going and doing some stuff. Like honestly, like one of the highlights for me is just carelessly riding a bike and
yeah,
like looking around me going, oh my God, I forgot the feeling of just like riding a bike without worrying about my kids,
yeah.
you
And
know,
like, what time do I have to be
crossing a
back?
street, like even them on bikes. It's like you don't totally
Yeah,
enjoy yourself because you're worried about your kids.
yeah.
Use your helmet on. You're gonna fall. Don't cross the road. Make sure you stop at the thing. Da, da, da. So this was just like, woo! I'm on a bike. I got no one to worry about.
Look at that. Look
Just
at
more of.
So we joined each other on a panel together about the unique paradox of motherhood, which is love and rage. That was the topic of this panel. And I just thought that a lot of people were curious about what we discussed, and that it might be fun to like relive it a little bit.
Love it.
So I kicked off that panel talking about like a joke, basically, which was like the early days of motherhood discussing how I just like, where's my libido? Like, no idea. Right. And like my husband coming home and like just wanting to give me a nice hug and like being lovey and touch, like, I missed you. And I'm kind of like, don't fucking touch me because I'm angry, and I'm not even sure why. I'm just fucking pissed right now because we touched out and all that. Right. And just how that feeling of like kind of being pissed off, like,
Yeah.
about stuff is so prevalent in the days of mom life. I don't know, like, do you? I certainly like still feel that to an extent. It's way better than when my kids were really little. But do you feel that?
Yes, I feel like it happened 2 nights ago. I took my kids to Home Goods and I had this whole vision that we were going to go reset up our basement because our basement just needs some redecorating. So we had this whole vision and we went in and all of a sudden, like, it's like the minute we were in aisle one or whatever it is, section one of the home decor, I lost full control of my children. Like one was asking for one thing, one was in another aisle. You want to keep them both together. So all my expectations of that trip went right out the window. So that's really hard because all of a sudden you're like, wait, this isn't how it was supposed to go. And now I'm losing them and I feel like I look like an idiot. And all of a sudden it builds up, builds up, builds up. And you start feeling less than because you can't grasp, you can't get a hold of the situation. And then I did the whole thing at the once we checked out, I go, wait till we get in the car. Because I knew that other people were looking at me and looking at us like, I could feel the eyes. And I
Yeah.
was like, for some reason, my uncomfortableness, like I had to say something. So I go, oh, just wait till we get in the car. And then I look around almost like I needed, like, got the approval from the other people. Oh, yeah, she's going to handle this.
Yeah.
But I really was so mad. But I also got in the car. And guess what I did the minute we got in the car? It's like I like almost like I cried a little. I
What
cried
did you what
because
did you say?
I just said, I just don't understand why. Oh, I know what it was. My daughter asked me right away, like as if nothing happened, right? Because they're complete narcissists sometimes, the kids,
The egocentricity is.
right? So we get in the car. She's like, Mom, can you put on the Taylor Swift song? And I go, I would like to just sit in silence for a minute. I'm not putting any song on. I'm not talking about anything. Everyone just leave me alone. And that was how I handled my rage because I'm not a rage person. But what I was feeling inside, man, cyclone. So yes, like we all handle that feeling of overwhelm and disappointment and what the hell am I doing right now? Am I doing any of this right? We all handle it differently, but that's rage. It's
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah, it's in there and it comes out into, I mean, I am one to every now and again go full on nuclear on my kids.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
are you fucking kidding me? Maybe I don't say fucking kidding me, but maybe
I
I'm like,
might.
are you
I
kidding
might.
me? I might. I
Yeah,
might. The
the
older they get,
yeah.
Lukey said fuck yesterday. He said, get your fucking feet off this chair. And I was like, what did you say? And he said, get your crazy feet off this chair. And
I love it. My son wanted to put a Taylor Swift song on the other day, but it's the one that says
fucking.
yeah, so when it says it, so he couldn't wait. Like he's pacing around the kitchen island, and like me, a friend, my niece is here, and I'm like, what's he's like showing off or something because he's looking at everybody. And the minute she says fucking, he goes, he just continued on his way, and we were all dying
For
because
those of you
like
who can't see what happened, Nikki just held up her two middle fingers,
yeah, he
indicating what
but he was like
he did.
waiting for the perfect timing, the perfect entrance of the bird, and then just continue. And I'm like, that's how you know he's a little comedian in the making because like it's all about the delivery, and he delivered. He delivered.
Amazing. He always
Taylor would have been proud.
he always delivers. I so like on this topic of like obviously there's the love. I feel like that's like a disclaimer that we never need to make, like fuck that saying like I do this because I love, because it is just the reason why I think the rage is surprising or taboo or whatever to talk about is because of the deepness of the love that's there. But I guess like I felt like one of the takeaways that I had from the panel in terms of why the rage, why the anger is really goes back to like the societal constructs of like what we are expected to do as women and mothers this
Yeah.
day and age, and like the lack of support for how much shit we have on all of our plates, and how that would obviously make anyone pissed off, right? Like, but we're all just like thinking we're supposed to be able to keep all the balls in the air all the time, right?
No, there, yeah, and there's sometimes like right now, my kids and I, great. We're great. Hey guys, I'm going to go on the podcast. You good? Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Everybody's lovely. And then 10 minutes after this, it might be a totally different thing. And it's hard. Your emotions are all over the place. And I think for anyone, this is what I went into during the panel was I was a Division 1 athlete. I was a successful businesswoman. My entire life felt like success was in my control.
Yeah.
Right? It was like you work hard, you put in the work, you put in the grind, you go to practice, you practice extra to get that spot on the starting team, and you do your extra work to like excel in a sport. And that is totally me as a human.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden in parenthood, I'm like, well, that shit doesn't work in this category.
Yeah.
So you have to like, it's a lot of your ego's just getting the shit beat out of it. And I think the yogis would say, that's good. No more ego.
Yeah.
It's great. Great. I'm learning a lot about myself through this whole non-ego journey with
It
kids.
is. It is hard to let go of your ego in parenting for so many reasons, like what you're talking about, the experience you had in the store the other day with your kids and stuff, and them going ape shit around home goods, and you feeling like always in motherhood, like this is a reflection of me. Oh my
Yes.
God. Like everyone's
I'm
gonna
like a
think
bad mom
I'm
in the
a
moment,
bad
but I know
mom.
I'm not. But
Yeah.
it's also like, okay, I think I'm such a good mom, but why am I doing something wrong if they're
Yeah.
acting like this? And you just
And
self-reflect.
right. And meanwhile, everyone's kids are doing stuff like that. Like we're all in that experience, like in that situation at one time or another with our kids, like whether it's today or tomorrow or a few weeks ago or whatever. It happens to every single mom,
Yeah.
no matter how well behaved your kids are or you think they are.
Yeah.
But like, I think of you because even though I do so much solo parenting because of the nature of my husband's job and he's gone like all day, every day, he's still here in my partner in so much of like the load of parenting and just being able to bounce shit off of each other and that kind of thing. You're doing what you do largely by yourself. Like you are on your own with your kids almost all the time.
Yep. Yeah. And
So I I don't how do you feel like you are able to like do you just grin and bear most of it and just say this is my job, this is my role, or how do you find your outlets, or how do you not like lose your mind being the only
yeah, it's a lot of like self-growth, self-love. I've been doing, I think I said at the retreat, I'm like, I've been doing the damn work forever. I'm sick of doing the work.
yeah.
Doing the self-growth. Like there are days I'm like, no, I'm Sarah, I'm doing all this. Who else is doing the self-work?
Who
And
is?
I don't mean that about anyone in particular. I just mean like I'm tired of doing self-work.
Yeah.
So the other day when I cried in my car after Home Goods, it wasn't like a sobbing cry. It was just like the tears that you like awkwardly once in a while like saw your mom and you're like, ew, this is weird. She's like tearing up. What's wrong with her? It was one of those. So I was just like, I just want silence. I'm not putting anything on. It was one of those cries where you're like, I could sob if I were home alone, but
Right.
like, my kids aren't going to understand all this emotion. But a lot of the emotion that they don't know, and I don't get to speak out loud, is that I didn't have anybody to end the day with and kind of say, wow, here's what happened in the store today. And like, oh, yeah, I always envision having that partner, and that's not a moment that you want to like call your girlfriends and share because they got their own stuff. My girlfriends with kids have their own stuff. So when you say alone and how do you do it, I think the hardest part is like having that really good relationship with yourself that
Mhm.
you expected to like have with someone else. Like the conversations are like, this is don't complain. I go into the, because you've had a child with cancer. and I've had loss and miscarriage, right? So it's like, I always think, would I want it any other way? Would I want to not be in this situation with healthy kids who I love to pieces? So I always do the perspective thing. I've always been like that. I think it's like just in my wiring for some reason.
Yeah. So what do you do? Like I find that when I'm really about to pop,
Yeah.
I need a break. Like I'm burnt out. And what that looks like for me is like getting a babysitter, or maybe getting a night away, or maybe having my kids like with their grandparents for a night or something like that. But I try to do a little something like every day where I'm like, if my kids are, say, they're just around and it's like, this week, like they're not in camp and they're home with me and whatever. I 100% like use the screen and I'm like, go sit in front of the screen and rot for as long as it takes because I need to go like exercise and take care of my own mental
Yeah.
stability right now so that I can be here for you in an hour.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw a meme the other day that said, um, people ask me if I feel guilty because I exercise. And her response was, no, I feel like I don't feel guilty because I don't want to be a CUNT to my kids.
Yeah.
It's like, if I don't exercise, I'm going to be the worst version of myself
Yes.
for my kids. And if I do exercise, why do we put the guilt associated with it if we know that that's the case? So I think that that was really good, like dead on.
Yeah.
And then it changed my thoughts because I am way better of a person when I work out. For me,
Yeah.
working out is way more mental than it is physical. And it always goes on the back burner, and then I end up resenting everyone around me because I'm like, I'm putting everybody else first but me. So yeah, you gotta find the pockets of time. And I think I said also at the retreat, like sometimes it's like a matter of, remember I talked about Disney and I said I made sure that the Disney trip was as much for me as it was my kids. Like
Hmm.
I knew there were certain drinks that I wanted to try,
Yeah.
or a certain coffee that I had to try, or a certain cookie that I needed to wait in line for. And I let my kids know, hey, the line's long. We're going to stand here because this one's for mom.
Yeah.
Those little things, even though they're whining or maybe don't want to be waiting in that line, I made sure they saw how much joy I had in that simple thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I deserve this too,
Yeah,
right? This
I love
isn't
it to
all
see you
about
enjoy
you.
stuff.
Yeah. Um, Now, like, as we are with um, being kind of out there publicly about everything we're doing, saying about motherhood, um, and let me back this up for a second because I just wanted to like make a connection between anger and rage and anxiety because I sometimes feel that like when my anxiety is running really high that I'm way more on edge and irritable and apt to fucking snap at somebody, right? Like if my angst is distracting me, I have no time and patience for other things. So in this mom space that we're in, putting ourselves out there all of the time, like there is an element of like judgment or maybe some mom shaming that we face, that kind of thing. Do you feel that, and does that contribute to anxiety in your life or like make you second guess yourself in ways? Like how do you feel?
Yeah, I don't second guess myself because I've done, like I said, I've done the work. So
Yeah.
3 years ago, I would see one negative comment and I would like dwell on it.
Yeah.
And now if I see something, I'm like, oh, that was somebody new who doesn't understand my relationship with my kid or my humor.
Right.
Or that was someone who doesn't know the full story. They only know that one clip and they're making a full judgment on it.
Yeah.
So it's
Or
kind of,
that's someone who's just an asshole.
yeah, like there was it, and a lot of times, believe it or not, us being, I don't know if you see it, me being a funny, like confident, goofy, in your face kind of like woman, I see most of like the negative comments are from like grown men.
Ew. Yeah.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
one guy, it was a somebody else's post about the importance of putting your marriage first. And it was a great post. And it was this married couple who was like, the best thing you could do for your kids is be in this amazing, perfect marriage, right? It was kind of like the gist of it. And I looked at it and I was like, that's great. But I also felt defensive for the single parents who maybe would not be like me, would be like feeling bad that they didn't have that for their kids. We're not going to allow that to happen. We're
Right.
not going to allow people to feel bad watching somebody's picture perfect post. So I just chimed in and said, well, that first part didn't work. So I guess I'll have to be a rock star single mom now. And a grown man on it commented, he goes, well, first step is to stop twerking online. And normally I wouldn't even look at it, but I was like, well, the twerking's paid off.
Good job, Mom.
We back.
We back. We back.
You have itchy buttholes.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah. So the guy said twerking, and then I normally would ignore it, but I felt defensive, and I said, not today, Junior. I said, that twerking, which I have one dance video out of like 70 videos. I said, that twerking actually has allowed me to stay home with my kids. That twerking's paying the bills. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Big judgerson.
Yeah, I mean, anybody's negative comment can ruin your day if you're having an off day already.
I mean, he clearly hasn't seen my page, because he would be trolling all over my shit if he's has a problem with the twerking, because I'm shaking my ass every day for this.
Well, listen, you're not good for the husband, according to Brand.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Anyway,
fucking douchebag.
Yeah, so yeah, negative. I think it's just like anything in life. You gotta, not to sound cliche, but you gotta know who you are in order to take feedback or let it go.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that sort of pops up for me sometimes, like in my messaging. And I actually just posted a reel about this yesterday, because maybe maybe I'm still doing the work, like maybe I still like get, take things to heart. 90% of the time I can like just write it off. And honestly, a lot of the time it's like bot type trolls who are actually, like, you can tell they're not real people. Like, it's
Really?
bot, but every now and again, something will come through and it will just make me not necessarily feel the need to respond to that person, but reevaluate my purpose and what I'm doing in my message. And I feel like what I am doing and saying is serving a greater purpose in terms of normalizing the shit that we deal with, right? And just not
Absolutely.
portraying an image of perfection out there and coming on camera without makeup on and as I am, or with makeup on, just like as I fucking am, however I am throughout the course of the day.
Yeah.
And just being real. So I think that like we're really similar in that category, but it can be, you do have to develop like a thick skin.
Yeah,
in terms
because I
of
think
like,
you and I talk to the camera as if we're with our group of girlfriends who already like know us.
yeah.
So,
And 90% of people like appreciate that greatly, right?
1,000%.
Yeah.
It's what more and more people are trying to do now.
Yeah. So if you had to say something like to younger Nicki and like something nice that you would say to yourself that you need to hear.
I think it's like at the retreat, I heard very loud and clear, like my grandmother's voice say, it's all going to be okay. Like all the stuff like all the ups and downs in life and all the worries that you have if you're doing it right as a parent. If we are sitting here worried that we're doing it right and we're self-growing and we're reflecting on the day. And I mean, listen, I'm not trying to sound like all the gentle parenting stuff. It's like the term you and I have already said, we don't like the term.
No.
But I do feel like I'm very emotionally intelligent. So if I know that I've upset my kids by going off on them, and then I want to bring us back together, I do feel like it's my job to do that. It's not the kid's job to know that. So I will say, hey, sorry guys, I really went off there.
Yeah.
But here's why. I'll do my job in letting them know why my emotions were so strong, apologizing if I have to. And I think that that's what this next generation is trying to do, is make emotions more safe.
Yeah.
So everything's going to be okay. And if we're feeling all those things, we're already doing a great freaking job. I don't think anyone's listening to this podcast who's just like, oh yeah, my kids, screw them.
I know. And I totally do agree with you in terms of like, I am fully ready to apologize to my kids when they deserve an apology for my bad behavior or me losing my control over my emotions and stuff like that. And at the same time, I'm very much human and do those things on a regular basis and stuff. And I think that I worry about all kinds of things, like as mom, like, are they going to think like, I was looking at my phone too much and I was on, things like that, like I wasn't paying attention, or I don't like to play with my kids. Are they going to be scarred by these things? Like, that they don't feel, but like, honestly, I am not, I am not every kind of mom. I am one kind of mom. I am the me kind of mom, right? And that's the only kind of mom I can really be. Like, I know I'm a good mom and I know that I'm not a perfect mom, but I know I'm a great mom still, right?
Yep, I
And
love that.
and I think that like just accepting that the faults are just a completely normal thing, or that we're all our own person and do things differently and say things differently and get results differently, that kind of thing, is part of what I think can release those like moments of anger. And not like, because I think sometimes the anger can come from feeling like you're not doing um things right. It's like you're angry with yourself and then you're angry with your kids, and then it's like,
Yeah, it's being a parent to a kid whose brain is still developing is like a big job because it's your responsibility to help them to understand the world, like how they're going to see the world. So when people ask me, well, why don't you do this? Or why is, this your choice in co-parenting or anything? I'm always like, because right now is when I get to lay down the foundation of everything that I have with my kids
yeah.
forever. I don't want the 18 summers. I want forever with them.
Yeah. Sometimes I want to be like, let's fast forward and close up this prefrontal fucking cortex so we can get on to the adult conversations here. Okay. I'm ready to talk to you like a real human.
Well, the prefrontals, that's a whole other.
That's like not till your 20s or whatever.
I know. So
It's a ways away. Yeah. Anyway, this was great. I just wanted to like, recap that weekend, and like I thought there were some great takeaways from that panel, and talking about how prevalent rage and anger is in motherhood, and just knowing that we're not alone in that feeling of I really like hate everything right now.
I think one thing that like the thing we can like land on and end with seemed to be something that resonated with so many folks in the room that day that came back up to me. I was like, oh my God, I love what you said about that. Was like the picture of yourself.
Yeah.
So
Tell what you did. I love this.
yeah, so I'll tell the co-parenting one because my co-parent and I, it's going to sound, this is vulnerable for me to say, especially with so many people in my personal life that like, ugh, it's like exhausting, right? The co-parenting, divorce with kids, it's just exhausting for anyone. But for me, when he and I are like good, it makes my life so much better.
Yeah.
And when we're bad, I'm like in the dumps. Because listen, anybody can say like, you did work. I mean, move on. It's like, that was once my person. And it's somebody that I truly believed in, right? And I think, put all differences aside, I still believe in him and I still want the best for him. So I had talked about how it's kind of silly, but then the room really loved it, is that I have a picture up on my mantle of me when I was 8 and him when he was 8. And I see so much of our two kids like meshed between those two pictures. But I also see two kids who wanted their future to be like amazing and bright and happy. And life circumstances come and fall on you, and you just kind of like change with your environment. So I said, when times are tough and I really want to like hate him,
Yeah.
I just kind of look at those pictures and try to think of him through the lens of him being like a kid. Because I think deep down, we're all still our childhood selves, like deep down. And
Yeah.
that helps me to be a better co-parent. I know that might be weird, but I think forgiveness and like just you got to continue to move forward in life no matter what. So
Yeah, you made me cry when you told that. It's just honestly, it's also just like so big of you to be able to see him through that lens and do that, and just what a great lesson, not only for like co-parenting but just in life, for like showing empathy to people, and you
yeah,
know, and not taking it all personally, but just knowing that it's like their shit that
yes.
yeah.
Totally. And that wasn't planned. It's like I found a picture in a drawer and I couldn't stop staring at it because I couldn't stop seeing how much it resembled my daughter.
Mm,
And that I was just like,
yeah.
it was just, it took me, and I needed to like see more of it because it made me think differently. So
Yeah.
everybody has it's a coping mechanism too, whatever works for people that can get you to move forward. None of us want to be stuck in life.
Yeah.
There's too much to enjoy. So,
Yeah. And I will say too, like in terms of how I feel about things, I do think the hard shit that you go through in life is also what ends up making you stronger and a better person in a lot of ways, and a more compassionate, open-minded, wider perspective type of person, right? So um there's
oh yeah.
always like silver linings, and
Yep.
in most instances at least. But
But to all, like, to any moms or any like parents, it's just like one day at a time. You're probably, that's the other thing we said, is just you know the answers. No one else can like guide you on how to be a good mom to your kids.
yeah. Nikki, what's your favorite snack
Oh God.
right now? You don't have to pick like all time, but just like what are you snacking on these days?
I mean, all the Trader Joe's stuff.
I know you do
All
so
the
many good
Trader Joe's stuff.
hauls.
But you know what? If it's my favorite snack, I am never not smiling when there's chips and a good freaking guac in front of me.
Yeah, chips
A
and
good
guac.
plate of nachos and guac. Woo!
Whoa! Put a margarita on the side.
Then there's that. Then there's that. It's right? You see those memes where like no one's unhappy when they're at a Mexican restaurant. Like
Nobody, nobody.
spark
You're a
margarita.
serial killer if you're not happy at
How about you?
oh, that's a great question. I mean, I am such a like, it depends what I had last. Like, I feel like I need to balance everything out. So, like, if I had something sweet, then I need something salty, or vice versa. But um, I I feel lame to saying this, but I've been doing a lot of like cottage cheese type combos these days. Like cottage cheese is so trendy right
It's
now.
trending. You got to do a post.
I know, but I don't know. But I do cottage cheese sweet. I do it savory. I'll add honey and berries and stuff to it and eat it like that, or I'll add salt to it and throw it on toast and like
Wow. Whoa. Look at you.
I know, I
Oh,
know.
you know what I heard is phenomenal with cottage cheese
What?
is the pretzel. What do they call them? The pretzel thins, the buffalo ones.
Oh, that makes
Cottage cheese.
sense. Like a blue cheese substitute type thing.
Yeah.
All
Look
right.
at us.
I got to get those. Look at us.
Look at us.
Who'd have thought? Not me. Um, all right. You are my favorite.
You're my
We're
favorite.
coming. I love you.